everybody. I hope that you enjoyed your lunch. We're going to continue in just a minute in the spirit that we were talking just before the lunch, inviting some more people to join in the dialogue. So we have Natalya and Ron. After that, we will, excuse me, after that we will have Vladimir going into some more depth around integral knowledge paradigm, now turning his attention more specifically to what the application of the integral paradigm of knowledge looks like. And then we will have Rod speaking about application specifically in the area of education. And Lazo will give us a short experience deepening. He's already shared some things around integral paradigm knowledge and music education, but we'll deepen that conversation even further. So, Rod, let's start with you. What would you like to ask Natalya about?
Natalya, what would you like me to ask you about? Natalya is a visitor who will be presenting tomorrow in this general program tomorrow of speakers who are coming from particular approaches to knowledge in their lives. And I think I would like to say first that the integral paradigm of knowledge presumes that different individuals tend to develop some interests and some skills in a particular area. And that is according to their natural inclinations or the society or whatever. And then our idea is that people who have deeply engaged with music or language or philosophy or art or whatever generally don't have or haven't developed the sensitivities and the skills which have been developed by others in their different domains. And that if in education we can have an opportunity to be exposed to the spectrum of faculties and knowledge and expertise, then we should enrich each other by our own particular approaches and eventually have a more integral approach in our own field. So the musician who has philosophy and language and perhaps some interest in social relations and is a teacher in a school, then that person will have a more integral approach to knowledge and life than a person who is just focusing on philosophy or music, which is our tendency in this culture. So my question would be then to you, how can you see this being applied in your society, in your life, in your raising of your child or whatever?
Hello to everyone. Now I see your eyes and I'm not so scared because I'm a new participant here. So I want to share with my inexperience with integral paradigm to answer your question, Rod. I learned Sanskrit with Vladimir and we often spoke about different intuitions or experience that happens with me. And one day he said that I need to develop my mental being in order to hold on this experience in me, in order to to take this inner experience to the surface, to express it in the right way. So I need to develop this instrument. And I agreed with him, because very true way, I feel it in my heart that I need it. Then we have a lot of time of discussion of integral paradigm. And I found to myself that my inner being is reflecting some information from integral paradigm. It's very difficult to tell something from the inside, but I try. When I took some idea from integral paradigm and concentrate on this idea, I have not only mental formations of this idea, but suddenly have some experience of this knowledge, and it has a volume. When you have experienced this knowledge, it has a volume and it has another meaning for you. One day I listened to your conversation, Rod and Vladimir, about that everything depends of the point of consciousness is looking, from what point the consciousness is looking on some problem. And I was very surprised with this word. They touched me inside, and I get it inside and was in deep meditation. And it was spontaneously, I have some vision with my closed eyes. And I see a lot of that my body has no limits at all, that everything is a consciousness, everything is a light, and light and consciousness is the same. Now I just say only words, but it was a very real experience with me. And integral paradigm for me is like a direction, like an idea for my inner experience. How can I look for some things, for some ideas? And it developed me greatly, and I have a lot of interest with integral paradigm, and tomorrow I'll present some information about how our brain is working, and how can we regulate our brain activity. That it can be helpful for those people who are meditating too, because all of us have some problems with our thoughts. So I have some inspiration from integral paradigm and to deal with in real life with my outer instruments. So just I'm sharing with my inner experience with it. I don't know. I don't think about how can I implement it in our society, because firstly I want to start with myself, have a deep experience, because my inner being don't want to change something in the world before I can change myself. And I really realize that we cannot implement this knowledge before we are this integral consciousness in us. I recognize that only two people have this consciousness. It was Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And all of us were just moving towards this consciousness and try to train ourselves with this. So I don't know if I answered, but this is fine. The great interest for me is that what is a psychic being and the integral paradigm, what is our inner being. And a few days ago you said very deep things about this. How can we deal with reality? How can, for example, we manage with international zone in Auroville? You say very deep words and they touch me a lot. So I want to ask you about this thing.
What she's referring to is a discussion that we've had a little bit, but not very deeply or thoroughly, about Auroville and something like the international zone, which is not developing particularly, and it's been a long time since the mother expressed this idea, which was very essential to Auroville. and we don't need to go into that. But the reflection that I think could be relevant based upon the integral paradigm would be concerning the social sphere and what the social sphere of development means in relationship to the philosophy of Auroville, which is a spiritual philosophy. Are the architects who have now produced the, 100th iteration of designs for the international zone, when they're doing that, are they keeping in mind the philosophical, spiritual meaning of the international zone? Or are they just churning out their usual professional expertise, which they know will be necessary, but they may not know about the other things which are necessary? And similarly with the economy of Auroville, as Vladimir will be showing in a little while, the faculties of consciousness, seeing, hearing, thinking, and speaking, tend to separate into areas of specialty. And so there are domains of knowledge and activity that correspond more to the speech faculty or to the hearing faculty or to the seeing or to the thinking faculty. And people like me who enjoy philosophy a lot, we find out that if you want to communicate to anybody about it, you really need to use language in a skillful way. And also the social sphere in which you're living and working needs to somehow be oriented to philosophy. If you're just working in a factory or in a hospital, people may not have time to talk about philosophy or give a damn about philosophy anyway, because they have important work to do. But how could their work be enriched by really understanding something about the architecture of existence? This whole paradigm that we're looking at could be seen architecturally. It can also be seen in terms of speech and the inspiration of speech. It can be analyzed theoretically, and it can be applied socially. Or there could be none of those developments. It could just be on the material plane, society and work and knowledge could just be very practical and very material, and not have any of those other dimensions in it. And I think life in society is like that a lot of the time.
I remember your words that touch me. That you say that we took integral paradigm like a knowledge, mental knowledge, and it should work not only on the mental plane, but we should invoke our inner being or forces from above to fulfill it, and then that will be the real force. And this, your words that touch me very much, because it's very similar to what I feel with integral paradigm and in my, during some experience.
So this conversation comes from a real issue. Whenever we have an understanding like this one, which is extracted from text, and Vladimir does an excellent job of organizing all the fragments which Sri Aurobindo has liberally scattered, disseminated throughout his writings, but he never really said this is an epistemology. So now we have an epistemology, and are we going to apply that meaningfully? Are we going to really integrate all the aspects of this way of seeing and understanding things ourselves? And how would we do that? You know, how is the individual to enter into the theoretical and the social and the architectural and artistic domains in a way that is unified? At what point do these become one expression of consciousness and enable us to achieve a true society and a true architecture and a true philosophical view that elevates life and that elevates all of these domains of more or less conventional knowledge to a point of luminosity and harmony and power and effectivity that embodies the soul, that becomes an expression of the soul of the person and the soul of the society, and not just an abstract domain of knowledge.
Yeah, I was very touched by your presentation. I have the same experience since long time. I know the inside, get the knowledge out of the energy field of the consciousness, and cannot follow the mental level up there. And my question would be maybe very provocative to look at it, that mental is much dominating the whole world outside. And I feel sometimes I get deep knowledge from inside. So it would be also, how would be the future society look like? No? And I think that is often a problem. I will not say only women or so, but people who are living more from the bhakti side. And Sri Aurobindo has an aphorism that the mental being looking for experience, the bhakti not, it has it. You know? So I just would look at these 2 points more, because I feel it's really a difference in experience and approach to life also.
I can show you like an example. For example, my mental being decided to do something, to implement this knowledge in some spheres. I decided mental being, not inner being. And I try to put energy, I'm just like this, like doing it, I feel hard, and it's something not easy. But my interests want some fruits of this knowledge. They don't want to obey. They want to gain some result of it. And it's one approach for nothing. It won't have real power, it won't have real knowledge. But the now approach is what I ask my inner being, what do you want to do? Where do you want to imply this knowledge? What are you interested in? And very carefully listen to the answer. And when I feel something from deep inside, for example, the same sign like we're reading Savitri, the same flame within is answering, and this flame is choosing the field where we can apply this knowledge. And this flame will give all power, all fulfillment of this knowledge. And the mental will be instrument because we need to concentrate on some area. We need these manas, we need our hearing, seeing, and speech. It's our instruments, but we need to realize what will be the first, who will choose and who will fulfill this knowledge, and that's the difference between two approaches.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Natalya. So indeed, I think this is a perfect segue to move into what Vladimir has to share. So Vladimir, I'm going to invite you to put down the camera and join us up front.